Hi, this is Tweek. Welcome to another episode of Tweeks with Tweek. In this week's episode, I'm going to make a garden paddle. What is a garden paddle? Well, look for some old scraps of wood. That's what I used, and I'll show you how to make one. Join us. The supplies we'll need for this project are some wood. I used scrap wood we had kicking around. You will need some wooden dowels and some 1-inch wooden letters. You'll also need acrylic paint, colors of your choice, some brushes, some water. You'll need some wood glue, and you'll need some varnish and a stencil. Again, whatever stencil you wish to use to decorate your garden paddle. So let's get going. For the first time ever, we planted corn in our garden. A whole bed full of corn. Can't wait. But I like to label the garden beds in our garden, and so I came up with a new kind of label that I call the garden paddle. And here's why. When I take the pieces of wood and they're cut out and you add a dowel to them, you end up with what I call the paddle. It has the looks of a canoe paddle, but once I added the letters, it became a marker for my garden. So let me show you how I did this. We start out with our wood. They're pieces of scrap wood that were a 1.5 by 3/4 inch pine, and we just cut it to various lengths, and then I fit on the letters to make the paddles. A hole was drilled in the center of one end, and then it was cut to a point. And sanded down. The dowel was cut so it had a point in one end so that it would go more easily into the dirt in the garden, and then it's pushed into the hole that's been drilled. We wanted to use this dowel method because we figured once we put it into the ground, and even though I protect it with some varnish, it might rot over time. We wanted to be able to reuse these so we can easily just twist, pop the dowel back out, and replace it if we need to. So let's get going and we'll start decorating our garden paddle. I had a bunch of little 1-inch wooden letters kicking around, and I thought, now wouldn't that be cute on my paddles? So I went through the garden and I wrote out all the vegetables I had. I had watermelon and rhubarb and different things. And I showed you the one I did that said corn. That's how this all started. So I sorted through my letters, and today I'm going to do one that says spinach. So I looked out the S-P-I-N-A-C-H. And what I'm going to do is paint them first, and then I'll add them to the paddle. I'm painting spinach, and I'm leaving the paddle in a neutral tone, letting the wood just shine on its own. But I want the spinach to look like spinach, so I'm going to go for a greeny blue color. Let's see. This one's a bit of a green, a little bit dark green. Well, actually, that does look like a pretty good color, but I'm going to add a little bit of light green to it. I'm just going to go right on the surface of these letters. So you're going to get paint on your fingers. It's going to happen. Let's mix up this color. Spinach comes in a whole bunch of colors in the green pattern, in the green theme. Ooh, this is nice. A nice spinachy color. So I'm just easily going over with paint, and then I'm going to set it aside to dry. I don't care if it drizzles down a little bit. Doesn't matter. I'm just going for the top here, and each letter. The reason why I'm painting them ahead of time is because when I had fixed them to the paddle, I want the wood to wood. I didn't want paint and then glue, and I want the wood to be glued to the wood. Can't wait to see this in the garden. It's going to be so pretty. And one more, the H. And sticking to me. So, spinach, done. Next, we're going to let them dry for a moment. These little letters are almost dry. Let me clean out the brush. So we need that in a minute. And this is a matter of just pulling the paddle close and deciding where on the piece you want to place the letters. So I'm just using that we cut the boards to the size of the words. Once I had all the letters figured out to make all the different vegetable names. So we've got spinach here. Fresh spinach is the best. It is. And I'm leaving a little bit on the bottom because that's where I'm going to decorate with a stencil. We just made the whole paddle just come to life, just so pretty. So I'm looking at that. I think that's a good placement. And now I'm just going to affix it with Tight Bond translucent wood glue. Here we go. This stuff's kind of sloppy, so I'm going to be careful. Carefully turn over the letter. And then place it back as closely as I can. This is a garden paddle, so if it's a little bit off, it'll look just fine in the garden. It will. Trust yourself. A little bit of glue. That's why I like the translucent glue because it dries very clear. In case you blurp a little bit, it won't show. It's going to be outside, so I'd like them to last. So I will pull them in the winter, and I will leave them out, and I'll protect them with some varnish. And we'll see how that works. Okay, so got that affixed. And I'm just going to angle it towards me and make sure that's how I want it to look. And it bonds pretty fast, but just making sure. And I've left enough room in the bottom. So while that dries, I'm going to go ahead and put the little teeny stencil. I cut this flower from another bigger stencil that I had. I just like the looks of it, and it'll fit right there. And it's a little bit rubbery, so it sticks to the wood. A little piece of paint on it. And so I'm just going to put it there, and then I'm going to paint it. So where's my brush? Some yellow. I'll pull out the paints. Need just a tiny dab. It's a tiny little stencil. A little bit of yellow. And I need some green. I could use the green that's here. I want to make it a little different from the spinach color. So I'm going to take just a tiny titch of that. And then we'll need some, I think I used a purpley pink color. Thinking, is that the color? Well, you know what? Let's do that first. This time I need such a tiny little dot that I'm just going to touch, squeeze out a little and let the brush just touch. And just get those little spots in there. The stencil stays in place, thankfully. You're just touching the spot. Okay, got those. Okay, now we've got some yellow. I'm just going to go inside. Find any stencil image that you like, just to add a little bit of decoration to the wood. Makes the paddle very pretty in the end. Okay, got some yellow in there. You know, I'm going to add the lighter green. See, just a little bit of a difference from the spinach color. I tried all different things to decorate the paddle. I thought beads, maybe some ribbon. And I finally found the stencil and went, oh, perfect. So there we go. I'm going to let that sit for a moment. Let's see. Oh, see, they're already affixed. That's good. I'll pull up the stencil. Come here. There, isn't that pretty? Now I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to add varnish, and then we're almost done. And one more thing before I put the varnish on. I took a little bit of white, and I just put a little blob of white into wherever in the letters there's a little spot, just for a little bit of highlight. I don't know, I just did this just to add a little bit of interest. So through all my little signs that I made, I just put a little highlight into the letters that have a little space in the center. Just a little bit. This is going to be out in the garden, so it's going to get dirty and stuff, but I want it to look nice too. Spinach. Now, let's add some varnish. All right, so everything is dry. Time to varnish. Using a high gloss varnish. Put some down on the plate. And I'm going to go over the front, the sides, come down the dowel, let it dry, and then I'll finish the back and give the dowel another coat because I want it extra protected. So here we go. This is when the colors come out. See, isn't that pretty? The hairdryer speeds things along a little bit, and we are now dry. So here's what we have. Spinach. Very, very delicious out of the garden. And isn't that pretty? I can't wait to see these in the garden, all in action. We've showed you the corn, and to give you an idea of the length, this is the one that we did for watermelon. So you've got the little stencil that unifies everyone. And the big one, moon pumpkins. Moon pumpkins, they can get to be up to 200 pounds. We'll see in our garden if we can manage that. And there you have it. Our garden paddles are ready to be put into action into the garden. So if you like what you've seen here today, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to ring the bell so you know when another episode of Tweeks with Tweek is coming along. Until then, maybe you'll get a sneak peek at our garden because we're going to do a garden tour. See you again.